what I'll do is upload this to our faculty development YouTube channel, and I will send you all the link after it has uploaded. That way you can go back and review anything that you missed, or if there's anything that you specifically want to look at, then it'll be in that video. Now, I also sent a workbook out for everybody that is kind of a guidance, and it's going to be your guideline. I called it the webinar guide, and it's going to be a for the session. So I just cleared out your thumbs up. Can everybody give me a thumbs up if you received that in your email? Awesome. Okay, so it looks like most of you received it. That or it's still filtering down. Okay. Looks like we have a couple call-ins. All right, so what I will do, if you did not get the webinar guide, that is okay. Hi, Dwayne. Okay, good. I'm glad you're in. If you did not get the guide in your email, please send me an email and let me know that you did not receive it, and I will respond back with this document. Basically, it's a compilation of what we're going to be discussing today, and it has instructions on how to do all of the things that we're going to be discussing. All right, so now that we have the admin stuff out of the way, today we are going to be discussing Blackboard basics and specifically building course content in Blackboard. This is probably the question that I get most of anything whenever I'm helping people with building courses in Blackboard. Because there's a lot of confusion about what's a module, which one is appropriate for which type of content. So that's really what we're going to go over today. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Monica Garcia, and I am the Online Learning Course Director here at the 81st Training Support Squadron Faculty Development Flight. Say that 3 times fast. This is what I look like, because I am not going to do video. So it's either this or my botched selfie that I tried. I figured you all would appreciate this picture better. So I have probably about 4 years of experience utilizing Blackboard. Back when AETC was going through their Blackboard pilot program and determining if technical training was able to utilize a learning management system, I was part of that, and I also was part of the development team for probably our most well-known online course, which is the IDLE course, or the Instructor Developer of Online Learning. I'm also the primary instructor and developer for the Analysis of Online Learning. And these are 2 courses that really focus on showing instructors, developers, training managers, anyone involved in the development process to appropriately align your courses and put them in the modality or the methodology that fits them the best. And if you are putting them online, what do you need to keep in mind when you're facilitating courses? I do have both an online teaching and advanced online teaching certificate from Blackboard, and I just earned my online teaching certificate from the Online Learning Consortium. So if you're familiar with that organization, that's probably about a year-long process. So if someone can't hear me. So Cynthia can't hear me. Is everyone else can hear me? So I'm breaking in and out. Okay. It could be that I just talk fast. So I'll try and slow it down. Okay. So moving forward, let's do a poll. Who are you all ready for some Blackboard? Okay, I hear someone's mic. Let's go ahead and mute that. Who's ready? Awesome. I am super excited. So let's get started. All right, real quick. I want to kind of gauge what y'all's experience is with the Blackboard learning management system. Are you a novice? Do you have some experience? Have you done courses? Just do a quick answer in the chat window, and then we'll get some as the user, some experience. We have some none. That's okay. That's why we're here. Novice, an instructor, and now the help desk. Someone went to IDLE. Yes, IDLE alumni are the awesomest. Okay, someone hit a robot block. Well, let's see if we can move those blocks out of the way. Someone has no experience. That's why we're here. This is awesome. IDLE alumni. I need to get like t-shirts. Okay. Awesome. I see a lot of familiar names, so I know there are a lot of IDLE alumni here. I know there's a couple that I know are Blackboard instructors, and a couple I know are currently developing in Blackboard, but that's okay. There's always something you can learn. There's always are things that I am learning, and I'm going to really be right up front. The best way to learn any of this, you can go through and take all of the training that that you want. But the best way to learn how to do any of this is to just get your hands in there and start pushing buttons. That is how I've learned. Some things I deleted that I didn't want to. Some things I hit a button and I literally did a happy dance when I figured out how to do something. But the best way to figure out what you want to do is to just start working through the process. So I'm going to give you some basics today on how to build some content. But when you leave here, the biggest thing I can say is to just go and try it out and see what works for you. So moving on. Today's topics are what we're going to look at as the course menu. The course menu is where your students or your learners are going to be navigating your course from. It's also where you have the links to your content. So setting up your menu and understanding what you need to do to help organize it to get your students where they need to go is incredibly important. So it's part of getting that content built. Then we're going to look at creating containers for content. So in Blackboard World, this is what we call it. We call them containers. This is where all your content is held. And then finally, how you add content. And that's whether it's adding web links, uploading files, adding video, adding audio. We're going to go over some basics with that. And again, that I sent all of you in your email. It goes into details extensively. And also the site that you can go to is the Blackboard help site, which that resource is listed at the bottom of your webinar guide as well. And when I do the follow-up email after this, I'll out for that website so you have that resource available. So the first things first, course menu. As I said, the course menu is really where your students are going to navigate from. So you really want to be mindful of what it looks like. You know, from a menu, that's how we determine where we want to go, what we want to eat, what we want to try. And it's the same thing with your menu in your Blackboard course. So when we're talking about course menu, we're going to look at creating a link on the course menu. We're going to look at some course menu components, as well as reordering and managing your course menu. Now, when you set up your course, you have the ability to select certain templates. If you're just doing a quick start, create some links in the menu for you. So the way that this is going to work is I'm going to go over the basics, and then at the end, I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to give you a demonstration of how to do all of the things that we're going to be talking about. So if I'm going through some of this information really fast, I will be revisiting it when I do the demonstration. So, and if you have questions, please throw them into that chat window, and I will do my best to catch them and answer them as I'm moving through. All right, so here, when you get your course and you create your course shell, you're going to have some standard links. So usually you have announcements, you have maybe getting started. It might create a course content link for you. You have the ability to personalize your menu the way that you want it to look that's going to most benefit your students. So if you are looking at a menu, it probably looks kind of familiar. So you are going to have a content area, you have your module page, you have a blank page that you can add a tool link, web link, course link, subheader, and divider. These are all the different links that you can add to your content area. Is really, it's your biggest container. So when we talk about containers later, your content area is literally the content. So whether you use a folder or a learning module, the content area is the big blank space that everything is deposited into. Your module, I'm not really going to get too much into your other pages. There are descriptions of them in your webinar guide, but I really want to focus more on the content area because that's really what this webinar is going to be about. We'll talk briefly about your tool links and your web links here in a little bit, and what their purposes are. But really our focus is going to be that content area. A couple of things you want to remember when you are creating a link on your course menu. They drive the navigation of your course, so you don't want it to be overly cluttered. The key also, though, is that you want to minimize your clicks for your students. So if you have a link to your content area, to a learning module, which links to another folder, which links to another folder, that's a lot of ways that your students have to get to the information, but then they also have to get back. It's kind of like when you run at a certain distance, you always have to find a way back. So you want to make sure that you guide your students through that process. So you don't want to have them go to too many different steps. So when you have your menu, if you can provide direct links to specific content, try that. You also want your menu to be uncluttered, and you have a maximum of about 10. If you do many more, it really starts to get confusing. Here you'll see the exception is if you're linking to like individual weeks, modules, units, etc., and that can ease your navigation. One thing that we did find in the IDLE course is we had just one general course content area, but based on student feedback, we ended up creating course links to each of the weekly or the daily folders, and I know that it's a lot easier for students to navigate to each day's content. So rather than trying to hunt down that daily folder, it was right there in the menu, and they didn't have to waste any time. So that's the kind of thing that you want to think about when you are creating that menu. So we already kind of went over this. These are the different components in your course menu, and as I said, there are descriptions of each in your guide. Now, reordering and managing your menu links. So say you have it and you just don't like the order. You have the ability to move those links around. If you see on letter A, what this is showcasing, if you can see, it's got a little purple highlight around this arrow. When you are in edit mode, this will show up as like this little up and down arrow if you hover over it, and you can move that link to where you want it to be. So it's like a drag and drop. The other thing you can do, if you look at letter B and you look at the top of your menu, is two little up and down arrows. And this little up and down arrow is so easy. So instead of dragging and dropping, which doesn't always work, all you have to do is hit the little up and down arrows, and this little window will pop up, and it'll tell you your items listed. If you highlight your menu item like it shows in journals, and you click the up arrow, it'll move it up and down for you. And then you just hit submit, and it'll reorder where you want it automatically. Now, the other thing that you can do is say maybe you're working or you don't want a link to be available to a student until a certain time period. Well, when you are in edit mode, you're going to see these little gray circles with down, and if you click on that, it's going to bring up a menu box, and it'll allow you to either rename the link. So if you want to change it to something to personalize it to your course, you can do that. If you want to hide it, it's going to put a little gray box next to it, and that means that when you take it out of edit mode and it's in student preview mode, you won't be able to see it. And if you decide that you don't want that content page, okay. And is my mic breaking up for anybody else? It is, okay. Test 1, 2. How's it now? Test, test, test. It could just be my voice. My voice cracks every once in a while. Okay. 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 It's not my voice. All right. That's good to know. All right. So, okay. How y'all hear me now? That better? Less feedback? Okay. If you saw me, I look like I'm in some orchestra thing. I have computers literally all around me, so I would not be surprised if there's feedback. Not as loud. Okay. But I talk loud, so that could be it too. All right. So we were at the discussions. So next to the discussions, I'm going to keep going, and I'll keep an eye on the chat window. If you guys missed something, let me know. And also, again, remember, I'm still recording, so hopefully this all picks it up. All right, so you can hide your link, or you can delete it altogether if it doesn't work for you. All right. So I am moving forward. All right, I'm going to go ahead and clear your icons out. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, please. Because we are about to get into the important part. Menus are important, but we're going to get into the everybody's here for, which is creating containers for content. You're excited. I know you are. I might be a weirdo, but I really enjoy this stuff. Okay. So creating containers for content. Does anyone recognize this page? Does this look familiar? So when you have your content area, if you say no, that's okay. If you're used to building courses, this is probably going to look familiar. If not, that's why you're here, so I can teach you. So when you get to your content area, your menu is going to look like this, and your main button that you're going to select is your Build Content button, hence the theme of our webinar today. Several items. Right now, they're going to look a little foreign to you, but after we're done, you're going to be like, oh, I remember that. So all of these items are going to allow add content to your content area. And we're going to go over what each of these are. So we're going to go over the different types of containers, like Tupperware for learning, planning your content areas, creating a content area, and creating a content folder, and how to link a container on the course menu. So you see how I was about to say linking. Linking this lesson back to why the menu is so important to the navigation of your course. So you do need to have that link in your menu for your students to access whatever container you're going to be utilizing. So let's look at the types of containers. Again, all of the descriptions for these are going to be in that webinar guide. So if you have that out, you should be able to follow right along with what I'm talking about. So Blackboard has 4 types of content containers. So letter A is your content area. And remember, that's kind of like the big bowl, if you want to think about it that way. It's your big Tupperware where you throw everything into. Then letter B, C, and D are your smaller types of containers that you can add to your content area. So you have your content folders, your learning modules, and your lesson plans. Now, each of these works really well for your information and your content. It just is really dependent on what you want to, or what your objective is, or how you want the students to be guided through the material. So in your content in your content folders, it's literally like you would think of think of a manila folder. I mean, it looks exactly like you see in the little icon. It's where you organize information. So when you are creating a folder, it's just one big extra container that you can put information into. So when we talk about the different items that you can utilize, you can throw them into your folder, and it'll all be collected together in one place for your students. Now, your learning module it creates a menu for your students. It allows them to allows you to dictate the order that you want the students to filter through the content. You can either make it so that the students can move back and forth. They can utilize the links in the menu, which students can move back and forth, and they create pages. They almost look like slides within the LMS. This is really, really good, a really good container if you have certain information that needs to be chunked. In EIDL, this is what we use. So if you're an EIDL alumni, we use the learning modules each day for the information, because in that course we have a lot of information and we specifically want it to be in an order, and we want to guide students through that order so it makes sense. Now, if you maybe want to just put item pages, which I'll explain what those are in just a minute. If you just want one page and then you just want the activity with that, then you can just use a folder, and it allows the students to kind of guide themselves through the information. Now, lesson plans, they're very similar to what we know of our lesson plans in tech training, like our paper version. So within that, you can actually have your lesson profiles, you can have your instructional objectives, and your content items that students. I really think that this is a good container if you are utilizing Blackboard as kind of a digital study guide, so to speak. So if you're utilizing Blackboard to house your information for an in-resident course, this would the lesson plan would probably be the best option for you, because then you can structure it like our traditional lesson plan. So it's an easy transfer of information. You're not having to kind of restructure everything. I really like folders for information where it's more of a larger page, and you really want the students to kind of be able to go through at more of a self-paced. And again, the learning modules is more for something that needs to be chronological, or you need it to go into a certain order that the students need to learn it. All right. Are there any questions on the types of containers? Again, all of these are in your webinar guide, and it goes more in depth into each of them. There's no questions, and we're going to go ahead and move forward. All right, so planning your content areas. If you have your webinar guide, I have some nice little pictures that illustrate this. They were too big. I couldn't fit all three of them on one slide, and I was trying to minimize my slides. All right, so you have three common organizational approaches. And this is also important if you're going to utilize your menu to kind of order your information. So if you want to have it like by unit or week, then it'll be chronological. If you are doing it by content type, then that'll be like your different, it could be like your different topics. Well, I'd say your units would be your content type, because then you're grouping your like information together. So if it's chronological, it'd be all of your information that you're doing for that week grouped in that 1 week. If you are doing it by content type, then it's just for all of the information just for that specific unit. And then your subject, it'll be your material and readings on a specific subject along with your assignments, discussions, and tests. So you'll be able to link all of your assessments and everything all grouped together in that one content area. So you want to be mindful as you're going through the planning process. It's not in your guide, but I have a fabulous worksheet for you guys to use that helps with the planning. And it actually is like a little organizational kind of chart where it has a little space for what your menu link is going to say, and then it kind of splays out to, and it has little folder icons and everything. So you'll see what I'm talking about when I send it to you. But it's a great planning tool that helps you visualize out how you want to plan out your content areas. Like I said, I didn't put it in here because I forgot, but I'm going to send it out to you as a separate document. So again, planning your content areas is key, and I highly recommend that you do that before you even start building your content in your into Blackboard. And I will stress that You want to plan everything out so that it is so easy to, once you get into Blackboard, you just transfer that information into those content areas. Additionally, if you are doing like a unit, and then down to a module, then to elective kind of format, usually what I like to do is I do like a folder and then do my learning modules inside the content folder. So there are certain ways that you can break it up. And when I do the demonstration, I'm going to show you different examples of a couple of the courses that we have so that you can see what different courses look like. Because how you build a course is really dependent on what the topic is and also who your target audience is. Because if you have one target audience who's not as savvy, or maybe they're not really well versed in utilizing Blackboard, or they haven't taken a whole lot of online courses, you want to make sure that you make your as possible. If you have maybe some students who are you can make it little bit more, but really think about what your topic is and who your audience is, just like you do when you're developing your content. All right, so we're moving on. And here we are creating our content area. So as I mentioned, your content areas only appear on your course menu where you create a link and you manage them. So you cannot create a link. You cannot create a file in the menu itself. So you have to create a content area link to wherever your files, your attachments, your links, your websites, whatever you are students utilize in order to support your objectives or whatever material they're using for the lesson. So you have to link them to that content area. So you can add content areas, as many as you want, and you do so at the top. There's a little plus sign at the top of your menu that will, when you click it, it'll give you this little drop-down box, and it'll allow you to add a area, the module page, the blank page, a tool link, web link, etc. And then allow you to name it, and then it will add it to your menu. So if you are multiple content areas, maybe you want a page just for resources, and you're going to add several links within that content area, you can name it resources, and then you can add your material to that content area. So that way, that content area is separate from the content area where you have all your learning resources. So just know that you are able to personalize it. It's just understanding where to find that. Let's see, we have a question that says, can you put documents to the resources page to link to, or does it have to go into the content area? Well, if by resources page, you mean like a website, can link directly to a website by using the web link. So if you click on the web link, it'll allow you to put a URL. So you have a specific resources page already built, yes, then that would be a course link. So if you already have a resources page built in your LMS, and link to that. If you're talking about a resources page in, say, another part of Blackboard, maybe it's in an organization or a separate course, then that would be a web link, because then that links it outside the existing course shell. Does that answer your question? If not, we might actually be covering it here in a minute. All right, I'm going to move forward. All right, so we talked about content folders. When you are creating a content folder, again, they are very much like a physical folder. You can create folders in existing content areas. You can create folders in a learning module. You can add folders to lesson plans, or you can add folders to other folders. So just because you add one folder in a content area does not mean you can't put another folder in that content area and then another folder to that. It's kind of like the, you know, those little nesting dolls that they have, like the little, I think they call, what are they called, Dresden dolls or something, where you open you open the big one and then it has the little one, then you open that one and it has another. So folders are like that. You can just put one inside the. I mean, it can really go on for infinity. It's really dependent on how many clicks you want to take to get to the actual content. But you can utilize folders in any of the content areas. But they do help organize content and they do reduce scrolling. Just like if you're organizing your content on your computer, if you you can label them and it does help to with the navigation and reduce trying to find everything on one long page. As I'll show you the way that I've grouped, I'm going to take you into AOL here in a minute, and I'll show you how I've grouped it in that course. All right, so this is linking to a container, link it to a container on a course menu. So again, you cannot create a container directly on a course menu, but you can do a course link to it. So this might be what Trevor's question was, is that what if you have or a container or a page created and you discover that you want to link to it? Well, you can add a link. So if you add a folder, say you have a folder in your week 2, you want to, you can actually create, if you select course link, what will pop up is it'll ask you the location, but it gives you this little chart. It's like a flow chart. It breaks down all of your entire course and shows you all your folders and all of your items. And it'll allow you to select the folder that you want to link to. And then you can name it whatever you want. And you select available to users, because if you don't select that, your students won't be able to see it. And you hit submit, and it creates a link for you to the menu. Simple as that. And I'll walk you through that. All right. So that is creating containers. It's a lot, I know. Again, your webinar guide has a lot more descriptions, but we only have an hour for this webinar, and it could take me forever if I were to describe everything. And I really want to get you to the part where I demonstrate some of this. All right, so you have your folder created. Now you want to add content to it. So let's look at what type of content we can add. So we are going to look at the types of course content. We're going to look at creating content items. And then finally, we're going to do a brief look at adding files, images, audio, and video. Because if you're looking at the webinar guide, it is endless. I've put pretty much everything that you can think of in there. And it really does walk you through the detail and the steps of what you need to do and what you can add. So the types of content. When you go into your content area, you are going to see a menu that looks like this. You have build content, assessments, tools, and partner content. For build content, it is that box that I showed you in the last section where it has a list of everything that you can add for build content. Assessments includes your tests, your surveys, and your assignments. And your tools is where you can add discussions, wikis, and journals. Oh, and groups. Groups is another one that you can add. I could not, I'm going to do one separate webinar on tools because that whole thing, honestly, I would probably need a couple hours to describe all the things that you can add with the journals and the wikis and the groups and all of that. But those are just some options. I have given you all of the options in the webinar guide and with all of the descriptions. And in that guide, it also links to other content that will support that as well, if you want those descriptions. All right, but since we're focusing on building content, this is what you will add to your content area, your learning module, your lesson plan, or your folder. So you will select one of the menu, the types of content. When you are creating content items and documents, you can create content that combines a variety of materials and view them together. So one of the ones that I use the most is what we call an item. And you look at a course and it looks like a bunch of separate blocks. Even when you're in student mode, if you see a course where certain links or certain areas with verbiage on them, they look like they have lines in between them. That's because those are each a separate item page that has the content added onto it. And this picture kind of shows what it looks like when you are editing that content. So when you are adding, say, an item, you can add text, you can add video, you can add pictures. It really is a very versatile method of adding content to your content area. When you are adding files, you can add, you can upload a file. Another way to add a file is if you link it to your content collection. I did not add content collection to this webinar because that is, again, a whole other topic that could probably be a webinar by itself. And the content collection, when utilized, is a very important tool when it comes to organizing your content and uploading, because it allows you to store things and then do them for later. So that's what it's talking about when it says adding a file, is adding a file from your content collection. The other thing you can add directly into your content area, you can directly add audio links, you can directly embed images, and so if you are, maybe you're creating an image, one of my favorite kind of graphic arts links is something called Pictochart, where you can create infographics and job aids. Well, they give you these embed links that you can utilize to embed into your items or embed it as an image. And these are the types of links that you can add into those courses. If you've been to some higher ed courses with colleges and maybe they have some of these fancy graphics in their pages, they've probably embedded that image into that page. So you can just directly utilize one of these and it'll come straight up and embed that item into your content area. Again, in your webinar guide, it's got the steps in order to do that, along with some pictures, because I know we all like pictures when we're learning how to do things. I know I do. So I highly recommend that you go through and utilize that. It also goes more in depth into specifically adding files and media, specifically into adding files to your content and adding images in the editor. So, as your Blackboard building expert, I am going to get my screen share going. because I am going to take you into the world of Blackboard here. Give me just a second. I'm going to go ahead and turn my audio off just a minute, and then I will be back. Okay, so you all should see my course list. Can everybody see that? Okay. So I am going to walk you through some quick steps on, I'm going to show you how to add a link to a menu. I'm also going to show you how to add a file, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about on some of those menu items. So the first course I'm going to go to, this is AOL. Now, when you are entering a course, it's going to come up based on whatever you select as what we call your landing page. So generally, when you create a course, the default landing page is your like a module page, and it has a bunch of boxes on it. I always personally like to have my announcements as my landing page because that is what the students are going to see as soon as they open the course, and then your announcements becomes like your news feed. Social media thing, you want to have something that kind of mimics what students are used to, and your announcements will do that. So here you see what I was talking about where I have my weeks. So this is what we would call a chronological organization. So I have it grouped by weeks. Now, if I wanted to add a link into my menu, you have your little plus sign up at the top, and it will bring up the menu that allows me to add a content area, a module page, a blank page, a tool link, a web link, and a course link. Your subheader, your divider is your little line, and your subheader is actually kind of just a title that is not linked to anything. So I want to add a new content area. Here, it's going to ask me what I'm naming it. We'll call it a resource page. And yes, I want it available to users. And I'm going to click submit. Now, it's going to go directly to the bottom. Does everyone see the resource page at the bottom? So when I click the resource page, it's already hyperlinked, and it's going to bring up a blank content area. So it's like a blank canvas. This is where you can create your art. So now we see our build content, our assessments, our tools, and our partner content. So these 4 areas are always going to show up at the top of your content area. So now I want to create a file. Sorry, didn't want to create a file. I want to create a content folder. File, folder. I know they seem like the same thing, but they're not. So I'm going to create a new content folder, which creates a new page. And we're going to call it new page. Now, I have a text box that comes up, and this can allow you to put a description of what it is. If you leave it blank, there's just going to be a link in the folder, but you can definitely put maybe an introduction, let students know what's in that content folder. But if you don't put anything in that text box, it's just going to be blank. The other options that you have are permitting, do you want to permit users to view this content? If you select no, it's going to kind of be subdued and your students won't be able to see it. So we're going to permit users to view this content. Now, generally, you'll notice that mine is just words. It doesn't have the little icon like the pictures. Let me see if I can enlarge the screen. That better? Okay. Okay, so if you notice, I don't have a folder here. And that's because you have the option to select if you want icons or if you don't want icons. I personally don't like the icons. I just like to have the titles. But if you want the cute little icons so you can tell whether it's a folder or a module, that is something that you select when you are creating your course. You can add that. Like, so if on your content area, if you want to show the icons and the text, you can select that and it'll pop it right up. So on our new page, I want to now create a learning module. So I go to build content. Now I scroll all the way down here to learning module. And you can put your title. Scroll down. Again, you can add text or you can keep it blank. Now here you're going to notice this is something different than a folder that the folder doesn't have. And it asks you if you want to enforce sequential viewing of the learning module. So if you select yes, what this means is that you're going to have, I'm going to show you, it's going to show you the table of contents. And what will happen is it'll show the students the table of contents, but it will not have the titles in the table of contents hyperlinked. So they have to go in the order of the pages. This is something that students don't generally like. They like to move around. So unless students absolutely have to know all of the information in a specific order, I would generally say to select no. And then that lets them move back and forth. Now, after they've viewed the information initially, it does hyperlink it so they can move back and forth. But if you select yes, initially, they cannot advance the page unless they've viewed that content. Now, open in a new window. If you select yes, what's going to happen is when they click on the learning module, it'll open up a whole separate tab or whole separate window on their screen. So you generally want to keep your learning module name window. It does have the same thing as the content folder. Do we want to permit users to view this content? Yes. And then you can click submit. Now, if you want to hide it until a certain date, then you would put those dates in it. All right, and again, if I want to show the icons and text, if this is just the settings that I have for this particular course. So you can see here, the ATC version is an older version than some of the pictures that I got. If you use like Course Sites, which is the free version of Blackboard, it'll have a lot of the same icons that you saw in the pictures that I posted. So this is what a learning module icon looks like if you were to utilize this option. So if you click on the learning module, you're going to see that it'll automatically open this up. We don't have any items here because we haven't added anything into the learning module content page. But if we're adding items, then it'll create your table of contents. Now, when you are in edit mode, it's not going to be hyperlinked because all of your content is right here. One of the things I like to do, instead of using in student preview, I've found that especially like in Chrome and some of our new settings that we have on the AFNet, it gets a little wonky and doesn't always do what you want to do. If you simply put it or turn your edit mode off, it will allow you to preview your content. So you can see here now, this is what the students will see when they enter your course. So as you can see, because I did not force sequential viewing, it allows me to click on these items. Okay, we have that. All right, so one last thing that I want to show you real quick before I show you a couple of different formats of organization, because we're out of time, is I'm going to show you how to add content to a page. Now, if you want to add a picture or a video or a web link, or you want to embed something into your content page, you are going to enter it into this text box. So you have all of these little icons here, and this essentially tells you what it is that you are utilizing. Just like in Word, you have your bold, your italic, underline, and you even have your strike through. It allows you to select your type of font, your size of font, you know, all of your alignment, your left justified, right justified, center. It allows you to utilize all of that. But if you specifically want to embed things into your content area, these are the icons that you're going to want to utilize. So one of your, if you want to insert a file, you have two ways that you can do it. You can either use this link, which will embed it directly into the content area, and it'll bring a page up, and you can, I usually just select browse my computer. Let me pull it up. There it goes. Select a file, so you can do a PDF, you can do or a Word document, or even an Excel sheet. Any type of file, it'll let you add it. One thing I will say, when you are embedding any kind of file that you want to read, put it in a new window. If you put it in the same window, it's going to embed it in Blackboard. So say if you want them to have a document that they're reading, but utilize that document to complete a specific assignment that's in Blackboard, now they're going to have to toggle, like they're going to have to close the document in order to get to the assignment. If you open in a new window, it'll then allow them to have the document open and have the lesson open, and then they can refer back and forth to both. So I always select yes when it asks me if I want to open in a new window. Submit, and then it'll embed it right there. It creates a hyperlink. Now, if you want to select a photo, you can just select the little photo and same thing. You select browse my computer, select a picture. Now with pictures, you may have to edit them. Someone asked, can we access this DCS later as we build courses? Yes, I'm recording this and I will send out the link. So I know we're a little bit over an hour, but yes, so I'm recording this now and I will send a follow-up email to this recording that you all can view. So I'm going to give you all a little trick for when you are building content, whether it is in a big content area, if you're just doing a folder and you're putting stuff in there, or if you're doing an item. You see this little box with the 4 arrows pointing outward, and you select that, it's going to make it go full screen. So instead of having to scroll up and down and trying to keep little tiny box open, if you select those 4 arrows pointing outward, it'll make it full screen and you can see all of your content on one screen. So this picture is ginormous. So I am going to minimize it. So you have the ability to minimize your pictures. If you click on it, right click on it, you're going to see that this little window pops up. I always close out of that because then it makes it blue screen and it gives me the little boxes. And you can just drag your photo up. Now, if you want to crop it, you are going to have to crop it, figure out what you want your photo to look like before you embed it, but it does give you that option. Now, if you want to add something else, you don't have to close out of this big screen. Just press enter and you can add something else. If you want to embed YouTube videos, you can directly embed them into Blackboard. You just click on the little YouTube videos and it'll link directly to your account. If you have, say if you find on YouTube, you know where it has the little embed code, you can embed it directly in here. If you select this and then it'll give you the option. If you click source and you just paste the embed link into that blank box, it'll create the box for you and you can embed the video directly. All right. So one last thing I'm going to show you, and that is the mashup button. So this is going to be your best friend. If you want to, it gives you links to YouTube videos, it gives you links to Flickr, and it also gives you link to Dropbox. So Dropbox we don't have access to on the AFNet, so we won't be able to use that, but you do have access to YouTube videos, and this is probably one of my favorite tools that I like to use. You click YouTube, you can search for videos. And it'll search videos that are public. So the video has to be public. So if you want to use the mashup button for your own video, maybe something that you created, you would have to make that video public before this will pull it up. All right, so I'm going to select funny and cute golden retriever puppies. So you would just select it. And you want to add the URL So that gives credit to where you found the video. And you can either do the thumbnail and it'll look like this little thumbnail right here, or you can select embed video and it'll be like a box. Submit. And there you go. It embeds the video. Now, anytime you're in edit mode, it's not going to show the video until you click submit. To get out of your full screen, click the little 4 arrows, and now you click submit. And now your funny and cute golden retriever are right there. All right, so let's look at some organization. So week 1, I remember I told you that we have different ways that we can organize. So in AOL, I have not used the learning module. I've actually used a content folder. And in module 2, I've grouped each objective so it's easier for students to see. So these are 2 separate content folders, and this is an item. The top, where the schedule is an item, and where each of the modules are is a content folder. I'm going to click on module 2, and here you can see that I have this is another content folder, so I have a folder inside a folder. And I've just grouped my objectives together, and in each of these folders, I have my content to include the assignments. So you can do it that way, or you can navigate, or you can do your learning module. So I'm going to take you to idle and show you the learning module, and then we'll be done. I know I went over. I get so excited about this stuff. Sorry. All right, so this is another where we grouped. This is where we linked each of our content folders to a day, and it looks like my screen sharing is a little behind. I'm gonna wait for it to catch up. There we go. We're almost there. You're almost at the same place that I am. Okay. So you're at where I'm at now. So I'm going to click on day 2, and this will show you where we have a learning module inside a content folder. And I'm going to put it on, turn edit mode off so you can see it from the student view. So the top box is an item, and unit 4 is all one content folder. So this is in here, we just added all the content in that text box that it gives you when you are adding the content folder. And then here is what a learning module looks like. And you guys are a little behind, so I'm seeing the preview. Okay, there we go. So here you can see that if you were to, all of the links are hyperlinked, so the students are able to click on each of these, so they don't have to just navigate through the pages one at a time. they can literally go through each of the links separately. You'll notice that we have the folder icons here. So we have the module, the learning module, content container, and then we have folders, content folders to organize each objective. And then within each objective, we have item pages where the content is located along with the assignments in them. So these are just two different ways that you can do it. Really, the way that you organize your content is based on what is going to work best for you and what is going to work best for your course. Okay, so again, I apologize because I know I said it was going to be an hour, but there's so much information here. That is all I have for you all today. I'm going to go ahead and turn my screen off. I hope your questions. I know that Blackboard seems to be an endless stream of questions. When you answer one question, it really kind of opens the door for it. But this is just the start. I will send the link directly to the help.blackboard.com, which is a plethora of resources. Use that webinar guide that I sent you. Also, we are going to be having Blackboard webinars every single month. We already have them scheduled for July and August. The one in July is going to be on understanding roles, and that really is going to focus on what permissions each role has, and also looking at it from an administrator perspective and giving people permissions. And I'm going to show you the organizational hierarchy. Then in August, it'll be setting up and looking at it from an instructor perspective and the different things you need to look at as far as user enrollment, looking at setting up your menu and setting up your timing for when you want things to be available to students. I will send a follow-up email with a survey also. So we always are looking for feedback. I'm also going to send out certificates to everybody. So I really appreciate doing all of you attending. So Mark asked, can we do another webinar concerning building shells and setting up an initial shells? We can definitely do that because there is some idiosyncrasies to that. As far as obtaining licenses for Blackboard, I don't handle the licenses aspect. So that might be something that you look to for the AETC administrator, and they will answer all your questions, and I can provide you with the contact for that in the follow-up email. But yes, I will do, like I said, we're doing it once a month. I will make sure that I set up one for setting up course shells. So hopefully this will got your feet wet. If you guys have specific questions, I'm always available. So please reach out to me and I can answer any specific questions, and I can do one-on-one training if you need to as well. All right, thank you guys for everything. I really appreciate all of your attendance and your participation, and I hopefully will see you all next month. Thank you.